For 30 years, Harold Bennett woke up before sunrise. At 70, his hands shook slightly from arthritis. His knees hurt. His back never stopped aching. But every Saturday morning, he still ironed the same brown jacket. Because promises mattered. Harold wasn't flashy, didn't own much, lived quietly in a modest house on the edge of Oak Ridge. But in the neighborhood, everybody knew Mr. Harold, the man who repaired broken lawnmowers for free, who taught teenagers how to fix engines, who never let a struggling family leave hungry. Every Saturday at exactly 9 o'clock, Harold drove 20 miles to the exclusive Oak Ridge Country Club. Not to golf, not to eat, just to sit near the 18th hole. Always the same bench, always alone. Nobody knew why. Most members ignored him. But the club had recently hired a new operations director, Preston Hayes. 43, polished smile, country club confidence, quick to judge. That Saturday morning, Preston noticed Harold sitting quietly near the golf course. Old jacket, thermos of coffee, worn-out shoes. His expression hardened. He walked over. "Excuse me, sir." Harold looked up politely. "Morning. This area is private." Harold nodded slowly. "I know." Preston frowned. "Then why are you here?" Harold looked toward the course. "Waiting. For what?" Harold smiled softly. "Somebody." Preston crossed his arms. "We've had complaints." Nearby members started watching. One whispered, "Never seen him play golf." Another muttered, "Probably wandered in." Harold quietly stood. "I ain't bothering nobody." Preston lowered his voice. "You people always say that." The air changed. A young waitress nearby froze. Someone quietly started recording. Then Preston pulled out his phone and called the police. Police arrived within minutes. Country club members gathered nearby pretending not to stare. Harold stayed seated, hands folded calmly over his thermos. One officer approached carefully. "Sir, they're saying you're trespassing." Harold nodded. "I understand. Do you belong here?" Harold looked toward the golf course again. "No." Preston smirked. "There you go." But Harold added quietly, "I made a promise." The younger officer frowned. "What kind of promise?" Before Harold could answer, luxury golf carts rolled toward the clubhouse. A tournament had just ended. Cameras, reporters, sponsors. Then somebody noticed the commotion. One of the golfers removed his cap, stopped completely, and whispered, "Mr. Harold?" The crowd turned. It was David Mercer, three-time PGA champion, national celebrity, millionaire. David walked straight past Preston, straight past security, and hugged Harold tightly. The entire country club froze. "I thought you stopped coming," David said quietly. Harold smiled. "Told your mama I'd still be here." Nobody understood, until David turned toward the crowd. "This man saved my life." And suddenly, everything changed. The clubhouse fell silent. Phones recorded everything. Preston looked confused. David stood beside Harold, eyes full of emotion. "When I was 14, David said quietly, "my daddy died." He paused. "My mama worked 3 jobs. People listened. There were nights we had no food." Then David pointed to Harold. "This man fixed my first golf clubs for free." Gasp spread. "He drove me to tournaments, paid entry fees, taught me discipline." Then came the twist. David smiled sadly. "Every Saturday after tournaments," he looked toward the bench, "I meet Harold here." He paused. "Because 20 years ago, I promised my mother I'd never forget the man who believed in me." The room went silent. Preston looked sick. "You should have told me," he muttered. Harold looked at him calmly. "That ain't the point." People lowered their eyes. "You decided who belonged before learning somebody's story." Even the officers looked uncomfortable. And suddenly, nobody cared about golf anymore. The video exploded online. Millions watched. Media called Harold the grandfather who built a champion. Harold hated the title. "Baby," he laughed, "I just helped a boy." But David wasn't finished. Weeks later, Oak Ridge Country Club renamed the 18th hole bench, Harold's Corner. A bronze plaque read, "Never judge quiet people. Sometimes they built greatness." Preston publicly apologized. Not online, not for cameras. In person, Harold accepted, because bitterness wasn't his style. One Saturday morning, Harold returned to the bench, coffee in hand. Same old jacket. David sat beside him. "You know people finally notice you now?" Harold chuckled. "Took him long enough." Then he looked toward the course. "Still," he smiled softly, "kindness count more than attention." And for the first time, nobody at Oak Ridge walked past that bench without saying hello.